All right guys, welcome back to the practice round. This week we're at Nevin Park for the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championships. We got a modified layout. I'm excited to check it out. Let's get into it. All right, so hole one's kind of like it's like a anti-flex with a fairway driver. I'm gonna go with an Explorer. This tree line on the right hand side, you kind of want to hug that a little bit and kind of flex back at the very end, about 350, 400 feet down there. So I like that. If it flexes a little bit, it should be really good. Yeah, it should be good. So we'll get up there. That should be probably circle's edge putt or something like that. Yeah, these have been fun. It's been awesome being able to explain to you guys what goes through my mind on these courses here on tour. It's been a great year. I'm glad to be able to share my thoughts. I want to definitely just reflect on the year and thank Gatekeeper, thank Dynamic Disc for making these videos possible and being able to bring you guys this content. I'm excited to see if we can expand on this in the future and obviously continue doing this in 2024. But for now, let's attack the rest of the course. Dang, I played a practice round yesterday. I didn't get anywhere close. It was super windy, but this is definitely the best drive I've thrown on this hole. This is a tough hole. Very tough hole. That's how kind of a lot of these holes out here at Nevin are. If you guys are watching the Pro Tour Championships this week, definitely, yeah, there's a lot of scrambling going on, a lot of, tough birdie holes where you'll just see players getting a lot of pars and scrambling for, even bogey saves on some of these holes. These holes are very tough. All right, hole 2, we got a par 3. We got a slight dog leg to the right. It's nothing crazy, but just a gradual kind of turning shot. You'll see a crooked tree in the fairway. You kind of want to go just past that and kind of glide straight. I'm going to throw a nice smooth trust shot. Like I said, I'm just kind of trying to go just left of this crooked tree and kind of go there through the gap and glide a little bit and just kind of land flat with a little bit of right turn. So, are we clear? Yeah, okay. So that was just a little bit tight on that one. So I'm gonna throw another one. I want to start it on the kind of left tree. I started it kind of in the middle of the gap and I turned into that tree. So I'm gonna change my starting angle a little bit more left. So that way I can kind of keep the disc turned into the gap instead of turning into that tree. There we go, that's better. See how I kind of kept that starting angle out to the left and then turned it into the gap. That's kind of the difference between a good and a bad shot on this hole. I'm gonna try one more here. See, I just did it again. I started in the middle and turned into that crooked tree there. So that's just kind of a mistake you make on this hole because you want to favor and get that right hand turn going. But as you see, you can get some bad kicks on this hole and get into some spots where you're basically scrambling for a bogey almost. I'll throw a little shot from here, just a little touch kind of putter shot. Once again, definitely a shot that will happen. You're not going to hit all the gaps out here, so I'll definitely be probably playing a good amount of, tricky little upshots to save par like that one, because this is definitely the type of course where it's all about scrambling, because sometimes even in the fairways you're scrambling for a birdie even if you hit the dead center of the fairway. So I'm gonna go a little deep on this hole because the fact that it's downhill and you're throwing kind of up and over hill, your discs like to glide long. So a lot of times when you throw a good shot, you end up going 30, 40 feet past the basket. So that's something that I might as well practice that if that's something that it's gonna happen in the tournament. And yeah, and like putts like that, if I miss a little left, a lot of times for me, when I miss left on a putt, it's more of something that I kind of just falls out of my hand early. I use my fingertips instead of using my wrist to get that extra spin. So those first two, I kind of, the putter kind of slipped out of my hand and I used my fingers. And these next couple, I'm gonna use my wrist pop. Way better on that one because I used my wrist instead of using my fingers. Like this one, I'll use my fingers so you guys can see the difference. So that one went left because I just kind of flung my fingers. The first two, I used my wrist to get that pop and spin on it. So that's the difference between getting good spin on the putter and not getting enough spin, and that's what causes it to hyzer out early left. All right, hole 3, we got a 630 foot par 4. It's like an S curve through the woods, but off the tee is kind of a spike Annie, or like an inside out kind of hyzer that kind of glides left. But I'm gonna go with the kind of spike Annie just to kind of glide into the fairway. And for me, I'm gonna throw 2 rives, one of my Raptor Eye rives and one of my Royal Grand rives. First one, just gonna, like I said, focus on getting the spike Annie out of my hand, and just you wanna glide through the gap and finish with a nice left turn. You don't wanna hyzer out at all. If you hyzer out at all, you're pretty much dead with no angle into the basket. That one's pretty good. It might be a little bit too much turn on that. This one I'm gonna try to land a little flatter, not quite as much. That one might be a little better, maybe a little wide. So we'll see where those are at and see what kind of angle I got from there. All right, so here's my lie from, I believe this is the first one. Turned a little bit too much, but it's still got a good angle into the green. A little bit of flex. It's kind of tricky. If I was a little bit over there, I have a lot more of a wide open shot, but here it's kind of just playing for par because I've got these trees in my way. I'm not really thinking about getting a birdie from here because I'm kind of out of position. Like I just said earlier, I'm in the fairway, but I'm pretty much out of position. So that's kind of how Nevin goes. You can be in the fairway, but still out of position. And I'm just gonna try to throw kind of a flex shot, try to get like a long 50, 60 footer at it. That would be, you know, a great shot from this spot. Oh, I hit one late tree. But that was pretty much what I was going for. If I don't hit that tree, I kind of get up there, skip, and get like a 50, 60 footer for the birdie and have a high percentage for a par. As you guys saw, I hit one of these trees kind of 30 feet in the air, not 30 feet, but 10 feet in the air or so. So it would have probably been kind of by those double trees with like a 30, 40 footer. Now I got just kind of a long throw in look. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the name of the game out here is if you're out of position, yeah, you're not going to be getting a lot of birdie looks. But you can be out of position, like I said. Even being in position, you're out of position sometimes out here just because of the angles at Nevin. They're so hard and tricky sometimes. But that's kind of the mental grind out here. Even when you're throwing good shots, it doesn't always lead to birdies. Whereas normally courses on tour, you throw good shots, you're getting birdies. Out here, it doesn't work like that sometimes. So you just kind of got to readjust your mindset and say, hey, all right, not all my good shots are going to get paid off with birdies. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of holes out here that par is a good score. And I mean, I would say throughout the whole tournament, the hot round's gonna be 6 or 7 under. You ain't gonna be seeing 10, 11 under out here. You'll see good players shooting over par. There's no doubt about that. Obviously, you know, I think 3 to 4, 5 under, that range is gonna be a great round, and you have a chance to win this thing shooting that every round. All right, hole 4, we got a 710 foot par 4, dogleg to the left the whole way, and you're looking to throw kind of a gradual hyzer around the corner. If you throw the type of hyzer where it hits the ground and skips left, you're out of position. You gotta throw just gradually and straight around the corner. That'll get you in the landing zone. So I'm gonna go with a dagger, just with a nice hyzer, and kind of get it to glide up and just throw like a nice smooth gliding hyzer. There's one middle tree that you can't see, you might be able to see here, but that makes you wanna cut it tight to this crooked tree, because if you go too wide, you're gonna hit that middle tree. So that middle tree is very much in play if you throw just even a foot too wide of your intended line. That's a little wide there. So that's obviously out of position. Throw a little bit more stable of a disc here and see if I can't get a little bit more left into the good positioning. There we go, that's better. If I don't hit that middle tree, that's great. So that was great. I just barely missed that middle tree like I was talking about. I went just a little bit left of it, and now it's in a great spot. So we'll throw a couple from there. All right, here's the landing zone. And as you guys see, I'm in the perfect spot, but if I put a little bit too much hyzer and get a little bit of a skip and land somewhere over by that log, 30, 20 feet left of where I'm at, you have a real chopped off angle around the corner. So definitely pay attention to that as you're watching this week, to see players and how they're throwing their shot on this hole. And you'll be able to kind of see why players choose certain discs and certain, you know, shots that they do on this. But I'm gonna go with a nice fairway driver through this gap. It's pretty similar to the shot we just threw off the tee, except it's a lot longer. So I'm gonna go with the fairway driver instead of my dagger putter. I'm just gonna throw a nice penetrating hyzer that fades nice and pretty good left. This one's probably 80 feet longer than the pin last year. So I like that. That should be real good. That should be inside the circle. So to give you guys an idea of kind of the shot shape on this hole going into the week. But yeah, it should be a good putt for birdie from there. So here's my shot. I threw a pretty solid drive about circle's edge. Could throw a little bit further, but pretty happy with this one. Almost got killed by an acorn. Oh, I'm worried about getting hit in the head with the acorn. But yeah, there we go. That's hole 4. That's like I said, this basket here is about, yeah, I would say 100 feet further than the previous basket last year. And this also used to be hole 16, and now it's hole 4. So we got some changes in numbers, changes, you know, basket placements. I definitely got to say this course plays a lot harder than last year by about 3, maybe 4 strokes. All right, hole 5, we got a 1,052 foot par 5. The drive is semi-open. The second shot shoots through a lot of trees, and it's a tight angle to the left. The 3 is a lot harder this year because they've moved the basket about 80 feet back, so the eagle's a lot more challenging. You won't probably see, I would say, too many, if any, eagles this year. Players are probably going to be laying back on the drive, not being as aggressive because of that basket change, making this hole a lot harder to attack for that eagle, a lot less of a percentage. So I'm gonna go with the drive, just kind of try to blast one with a little bit of ante and then ride that bush line on the right-hand side, kind of fade back. Thing about this hole is if you throw it too much hyzer too high, they have the tendency to skip left. As you can see, this OB line on the left-hand side can come into play pretty quick if you lose your disc left and it starts hyzering, because there's really nothing to stop it, and it likes to skip out of bounds. So I'm gonna kind of just try to blast one nice and straight with just a gentle hyzer. See, that might have too much hyzer a little bit, but it's still gonna be good. Yeah. So you saw that one. That one's gonna be safe, but it'll probably be pushing the line left. And I didn't throw it that far left, but you guys can kind of see how tight that OB is. I wanna push it a little bit straighter to the right than that first one. That one was just a little early out of the hand. But yeah, one more. Want to kind of start it closer to this right side tree. There we go. That's a little better. A little too flippy this time. So somewhere in between kind of that first one and that third one is kind of the ideal shot. But that first one is totally fine. I would take that all day. Here's my drive, and as you saw, I got a little bit of a skip, and I'm semi close to this out of bounds, but it kind of lines me up to this gap on the right-hand side. So I'm just gonna kind of blast a drive right through there, a driver, and just because I want to get as far down there and as far left as I can. So I want to get a lot of distance just to try and make this third shot into this basket easier. So yeah, it's going to be kind of a nice hyzer through the gap and finish pretty hard left, as that's kind of how the fairway finishes. Too wide. Try one more here. This hole is obviously, yeah, it's a par 5, but it's kind of, you know, it's the way the fairway kind of shapes makes it tough. That's a good one. So that should be following the fairway, and yep, that should be golden. Give myself a chance to see what the upshot looks like if I don't hit a tree on the second shot. Obviously that first one I would be scrambling for a par, but yeah, I want to just I'm gonna throw from the second one just so I can see where it lands. If I do hit a tree, I'm just pitching up to where my second shot normally lands if I don't hit a tree. So it's essentially the same spot. I'm just one stroke worse on the hole. So that's why you won't see me really practicing scrambles too much, because it's something that I know where I want to land if I do happen to land there. And of course I do practice scrambles sometimes, but I also like to practice a lot from the landing zones because, you know, obviously that's where I want to be, and that's where I feel like I do land a lot of the time during tournaments when I'm really dialed in. All right, here's my shot, the one that got through cleanly. As this one's pretty tricky, as you can see, the left-hand side of this fairway. I'm technically in the fairway, but I'm throwing some spike ante to get to the basket, which tells you how tricky it is. So if I land 30 feet more to the right, it's kind of a flatter hyzer that kind of pops up flat and just lands flat. This one kind of went up, skipped left into this spot. So, you know, it's something I can make the adjustment now that I know where the sweet spot is. But we're going, yeah, that first basket, we're going about, like I said, another 80 feet past that. It's gonna be a nice smooth, hopefully ante, up to the circle's edge or something. Or parked. But yeah, you can see how tricky that is. I had to, you know, hit the gap and kind of get lucky through some trees just to give myself that birdie look. And that shows you kind of how hard this hole is to get that birdie. All right, here's my third shot, and just kind of tapping in for the bird. So that's hole 5. It's obviously, yeah, I would say 80 to 100 feet longer, which is kind of the name of the game out here. A lot of these baskets got longer, tougher, and it just makes these birdies that much harder on these longer par 4s and 5s. All right, we got the signature hole. This used to be hole 18 last year, and this is where I won the tournament against Isaac. This year it's hole 6, and it's now turned into a par 5. It's 1,049 feet, so we got back-to-back par 5s out here on 5 and 6. It's the same tee shot. You want to kind of throw a kind of glidey hyzer. You want to really challenge this tree with kind of a not super flippy, but not overstable, because you throw too overstable, it's going to crash left. You want to kind of throw a nice glidey hyzer around the corner to get yourself in position to throw a good placement shot on that second shot. I'm going to go ahead and throw my rive just like I did last year. Similar shot. I'm just trying to throw just right of this limb that kind of sticks out of this tree, and just kind of keep it on the hyzer and kind of let the understability of the disc kind of pop up a little bit and then fade back left. That one's a little bit wider than I would like, so it's probably gonna clip those trees or something. Okay, it's all right, that's safe. Not quite as much distance and glide as I want. This one I'll try to throw a little harder and a little better. There we go. That's better. That's what I wanted. It's gonna glide around the corner and kind of skip into a great spot. So that second one's probably about 50 feet further than that first one. I just popped it better, threw it on a better angle, and got that little bit extra glide on it. But yeah, these holes out here, as you guys are starting to see in these videos, they're 80 feet, 100 feet further tucked into the woods, which brings in so many more trees, so many more tricky angles into these baskets. So it's gonna be a lot of fun navigating this course, trying to get birdies. I mean, birdies are, like I said, really hard to come by. It's not like last week where you're gonna see people shooting 10, 11 under. You know, like I said, if you shoot under par at all, you're doing something. Out here at Nevin, there's no gimme birdies. There's no holes you're walking up expecting to birdie every time. You gotta throw great shot after great shot just to get opportunities, which doesn't even mean you're gonna get the birdie. So it's gonna be a mental grind trying to get birdies out here at Nevin. All right, brings us to the second shot. This was my first drive of the 2 that I threw, the not so good one. Like I said, the second one, as I said, from the tee was about 40, 50 feet further, which is exactly what it was. But I'm throwing a shot. This is pretty similar to where I landed, maybe a little bit further last year during the Tour Championships. But right now the drive isn't as important because it's a par 5. So the second and third shot are more important, or the third and fourth shot are more important. But I'm just really trying to throw a nice glidey hyzer and kind of fade right side towards the bush line on the right. I'm not really trying to penetrate straight like last year when the pin was out in that field. The sweet spot is kind of towards that bush line. You want to favor the right hand side of the fairway. That opens up the second shot through the woods, as you guys will see once we get up there. So that one's going to be good. It's going to hopefully skip a little bit further right and give me an angle. Okay. So that one is not bad. I want to be even probably 20 feet further right than that just to be in the optimal spot. But overall, that's a good spot. I'm gonna try to throw a nice bomb like Anheuser, like full rip kind of Annie bomb that kind of glides to the right, and just kind of see where this lands me, because this is a really tricky par 5. It's hard to get far enough out the gap, but then still go right and be in that sweet spot. See, that's really good. I like that a lot. That's really good. See how it kind of like went on down that bush line? The hole kind of bends back to the left. Once you get up there towards the camera guy, it kind of goes right and then banks left. So you really want to favor that bush line to open up that third shot angle, because there's out of bounds, there's a bunch of trees, and once again, it's not a gimme par 5. Some par 5s on tour, you'll see eagle chances and people getting birdies almost every time they play the hole. This hole, I mean, a par's not that bad of a score, which is crazy to say on these par 5s. It's designed pretty well to challenge us. And like I said, scoring birdies out here, even on the par 5s, is a challenge. You gotta throw 2 or 3 great shots. You can't get away with just throwing a good drive and a chip up for a birdie or an eagle chance. All right, so you can see my drive here, or my second shot here, throwing 3, trying to get up and down for the 4. I would like to be a little bit further right because you can see this angle is a lot better. Like that second one I threw, kind of held that turn, kind of just like I said, along the bush line. You almost want to be in the bush, essentially, is honestly a great spot to be in. Here's just kind of a chopped off angle where I have to like almost hit this corner tree to get around the corner enough left. So it's just really tricky, and I'm still going to try it because you never know, I might land here in the tournament. So just trying to throw like a once again, not a flippy mid-range, but not a stable mid-range, something that's just kind of go through that gap and just gently glide left. Okay, it looks like I actually went out of bounds. There's an actual, like right back past that bridge, you'll see up there, there's like an OB little pit area, and that's exactly where I went. I just went out of bounds. But I'm gonna throw another one from here where it's a lot better of an angle, and I'll kind of show you guys the difference between that spot and this spot. It's the difference between 1, 2, maybe 3 strokes. So I might be out of bounds on that one, getting a bogey. And that one looks like way better. Looks like I'm gonna get a birdie from there. Yeah. So that's parked for the 4, and you can see how much more open the shot is from here versus over there. So here's the out of bounds. It's kind of blind around the corner, but it's like 10 feet short of this ditch and 10 feet past this ditch is out of bounds. I found the out of bounds with my first one just because I didn't have quite the angle to get the height on my shot. So the first one was out of bounds. That second one, like I said, is parked, much better shot. Was able to get the birdie. All right, hole 7, 700-foot par 4, dog leg to the right. I'm gonna say this is almost a Mando sidearm if you want to get the birdie. It's just such a tricky backhand shot with the side slope, out of bounds on the left-hand side. Forehand's definitely the higher percentage play. You really got to be able to throw a 400, 450-foot sidearm, straight carry, and then finish at the end to get in this sweet spot. It's a really tricky par 4. So this shot is the type of, just like I've said on a lot of previous holes, you want to you don't want to throw a super overstable disc that's just going to get to the ground. You want to throw kind of a hyzer flip almost, to where it's going to be gliding through the gap and getting that distance. Because so if you throw a little bit flippier through these gaps like this, you're going to get that longer glide through the gap instead of hitting the ground. And having 30, 40, 50 feet of extra glide on these par 4s is just going to make the upshots that much easier and give you the higher percentage birdies. So I'm throwing not my super overstable drive, but just a nice glidey one that's hopefully going to go through this gap and glide, something like that. So that looks pretty good. That might be a little early on the hyzer. Might want to glide a little bit more. Totally fine with that. But just being critical of myself, I want to get a little bit more glide straight. That one's pretty similar to that first one, but like I said, they're both probably pretty good in a decent spot, but this hole is very tough. So there's a very good chance I could be blocked out with a bunch of trees in my way. We'll go check it out. All right, here's my 2 shots. They both were basically identical, very consistent. And you can see I have not much of a look. And even if you throw it, 60, 40 feet further, you're talking like a 450, almost 500 foot sidearm through a tiny gap, and you're still having a bunch of trees in the way. So this hole is, even if you have a bomb sidearm, it's really hard to get into this perfect sweet spot. For now, I would have to hit this tiny little gap just to even try to get through the next set of trees to even get lucky. You gotta get like lucky 3 times just to even get a putt at it. So I'll try it. It's not really something I'd probably do in the tournament, because if I hit this and drop, it's, you know, automatic, you know, bogey almost, unless I pull a miracle out. But let's see if I can hit this tiny gap here. See, I hit the first gap right in front of me, and then it's just a crapshoot after that. So, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, that's the nature of this hole. And that's kind of Nevin for you. I hit the fairway, but look at the angle to the basket. It's just almost nothing. And you obviously can scramble and do something. It's just, you know, the holes are tricky and they challenge you every shot. There's not like you can relax after throwing a good drive. You still have to throw a great second shot, a great third shot in some of the par fives, and still may not lead to a birdie. Takes me to my third shot opportunity on this par 4 that's obviously been pretty tricky on the second shot. I'm just gonna try to throw a slammer and just try to get up and down for the par, which would be my kind of tournament play. Or go in. Oh crap, almost went in. But yeah, I mean, like I said, that's very commonly can happen, is you're throwing a great shot, hit one middle tree, and you know, you're bouncing into a spot where you're having to scramble for a birdie or for a par instead of having a birdie look like you probably thought you would by the shot that you threw. So my slammer landed here. So I got a nice par on this hole. Not the worst, but obviously, you know, like I said, 700-foot par 4 through a bunch of trees, or even if you hit the fairway, you're scrambling. So that's hole 7 here. All right, we got hole 8. We got a par 3, 462 downhill. I would say this hole plays more like 420, somewhere in that range. You got a, you know, a good elevation drop, so it gives you a little bit of extra distance you can throw. I'm gonna go ahead and just throw kind of a lot of people will throw the kind of, you gotta pick your shot, left of the telephone pole or right of it, throwing like a hyzer flip. I'm more comfortable throwing left, kind of flex with the Explorer. So that's kind of what I'm gonna do. You don't wanna throw it too high because you're going downhill, you're gonna hit a bunch of limbs. So I'm gonna keep the height under control and obviously hopefully the angle under control. So that's gonna be good if it goes a little straighter. Okay. So that looks good. That should be about 40 footer. I'm gonna try another one here. Try to get a little bit more flex on it, get a little bit more glide to the right, but that first one was pretty ideal. That one's gonna be good too if it doesn't hit a telephone pole or something. Yeah, that one's about another 25 footer. So yeah, Explorer seems like the shot for me on this one. It's just the type of shot you want to commit to a line. My line is kind of that tree on the left-hand side with a little bit of ante, because I know by the time it gets to that tree, it's going to be turning and flexing back out. And yeah, that's kind of my way of, you know, hitting the gap on this hole with the right disc. And the starting point is the most important part about hitting the gap on not just this gap, but a lot of gaps in general out here. All right, so here's my first one. Like I said, kind of have like right about a 30 footer from this one and the second one. So I got the birdie for sure. This one's definitely gettable. It's not, once again, not an easy birdie, but very gettable if you throw a good tee shot and give yourself a look. All right, we got hole 9, 580, par 4, slight dog leg to the right. A lot of people will be throwing like a nice forehander, hyzer flip backhand, getting into the gap. I like to throw a forehand felon just to kind of get through the gap and get to the skip, get me closer for my second shot. The gap's a little tight, but I like to throw the driver to get that little extra distance, give me a little easier of an upshot. So that should be skipping maybe a little too far to the right. Yeah, I probably got too much skip. I'll throw one more just to go a little bit straighter, probably. That's the same shot, but should be kind of scrambling from there for an up and down. All right, so here's my first shot. I'm gonna play from here. It's a little bit out of position like you see, but I can still throw a nice flex kind of ante shot. They're both pretty much in the similar spot, but I'm gonna throw from here, throw like a nice flex harp shot. Didn't quite turn that one enough, but we'll see if it gets through. Okay, not quite. I'm gonna throw one more. That one has a putt, but not quite exactly where I want it. Probably same thing with that. Not quite turning them enough, but those two both have a putt, and we'll putt from there. pretty consistent on this hole. Through two shots, and they're both pretty much in this spot. As you can see, there's OB down past the basket and to the right, so got a little bit of a death putt, but I'd want to favor up here on the upshot to give myself this look. Heck yeah. So I was able to get the 3. As you can see, a lot of trees, a lot of tricky angles on this hole. But I would always want to putt on the left-hand side of this basket if I can. It's the safe side, the big side of the green, and just give myself that birdie look. That's the thing out here. Just give yourself birdie looks on a lot of the different holes, and if you're a good putter, you're gonna capitalize. All right, guys, that's the front 9 out here at Nevin. Be sure to go to my channel to check out the back 9.